Does Hermes have it in the bag, or will they lose their crown? This is something I wanted to chat about because it is definitely a hot topic. Welcome back, amigos. Thank you for joining me. If you are new here, bienvenidos. I am Laura and I'm a Latina who happens to love luxury, happens to love how to share, how to score some really great deals on luxury items. And as a military spouse, I love to share military discounts with you. For those of you that are eligible, please consider subscribing. There's many videos about this particular lawsuit from a lot of really great YouTube content creators. I have not watched a lot of these videos that are out there. The only one that I have actually watched is the one from Lisa from Luxury and Life in the Middle, because I know that she is an attorney by trade. If you haven't watched her video, I will link it down below. And she also does provide like the link to the actual lawsuit in case you want to do read over that. I have reviewed it. I will be referring to some of the things that I have in the article, as well as you might see me looking down because I have a lot of notes and I have some of the articles that I did come across within this last week, 2 weeks, since it's been out. This is strictly being done for entertainment purposes. I am not a lawyer. I don't know the particular plaintiffs that have filed this lawsuit. This is just my opinions and thoughts on this very hot topic currently going on within this luxury world within YouTube. So just wanted to give you my thoughts as an Hermes client, as a consumer. There's so many articles about this particular lawsuit from Business of Fashion, Fashion Law, Purse Bob, Fortune, CNN, even the New York Times. There's just so many out there once you Google it. And I just wanted to provide my thoughts in this particular topic because of my experience working in the financial industry for over 20 years. From that standpoint, as well as also working with customer remediations in a previous role that I had. So in today's video, I do want to touch on tying. I want to talk about the pre-spend and touch a little bit on remediation, what can occur, what my thoughts are in regards to that, as to in case this lawsuit does have legs and Hermes loses, as well as my forecast, my thoughts of a potential ripple effect because of this lawsuit. And in sticking with today's topic for this video, I've got my little Hermes Easter Peeps t-shirt on. Let's go ahead and begin chatting about this really interesting topic and lawsuit that is out here in our luxury world. As I mentioned, I've been in the financial industry for over 20 years, and I was previously a senior mortgage underwriter for several years. And tying in our aspect, in our world, that is huge. That's a big no-no. That is something that being in the financial world, like, we have to abide by these rules and regulations, these laws that have been set in place, that all financial industries, especially in a financial institution, that we have to follow. So when I saw the word tying in the very first article that I saw pop up on my phone, I thought, wow, this is really huge for Hermes, and that's really what caught my attention to this. I want to talk about the Sherman antitrust law and kind of give you an example for how this relates to tying for me in my experience of being in the financial industry. For tying, I'll give you like an illegal example. Me as an underwriter, I receive the loan application that the loan representative you are working with took because you want to purchase a home, and so you're applying for a home mortgage. I received that application and I am reviewing it. I'm looking at all of the information, and I'm also looking at your credit score. I'm looking at your credit history. I'm verifying that you can qualify for this mortgage by looking at your housing to income ratios and your debt to income ratios. I'm building my compensating factors in order to approve this loan and to make sure that I've documented, that you're not a risk to my bank. I want to make sure that you can pay this loan, that you can make the monthly mortgage payment. I approve the loan. I advise my loan processor that the loan is approved, and she will then contact the loan representative. The loan representative then reaches out to the borrower and then says, hey, Mr. Borrower, Mrs. Borrower, we received your loan application, it's been reviewed, and you have been approved, for $500,000. However, in order for us to, complete the mortgage loan and for us to finance this house that you want to buy, you have to buy this particular type of hazard insurance or some other type of like a product or service. They're tying something in order for us to close on the loan to finance the mortgage on this house that you want to buy. Or a company can then say, okay, well, we will finance this mortgage for you, we'll finance the home for you, but you need to move funds over here because we have these specific type of investment products and you need to open these type of investment accounts with us as well in order for us to then finance this home mortgage for you. That would be tying. So that's how I can go ahead and give you just an easy example of how it relates to me and in my world being in the financial industry. When I did hear about the lawsuit, I was honestly surprised that it took this long for a lawsuit or something like this to come about. And who knows, if maybe something like this has occurred, but on another platform, like maybe there was a complaint with maybe possibly the Better Business Bureau, but not a lawsuit of this magnitude that it's very well known and now it's out in the public, out for public knowledge that this is something that somebody has now recently filed. I would think that because Hermes has just become very, very popular, there's been a greater interest in this brand within the last several years, and there's so much discussion within social media platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, the internet, what have you, of a lot of this discussion about pre-spend in order to qualify to be offered a handbag. There's all of this talk of how I scored a bag, an Hermes journey, what to buy to receive an offer. There's so much of this out there. I would think that Hermes's legal counsel would have told him, make sure that you have some kind of mitigating factors or practices in place to kind of help protect us, just in case something like this were ever to come about. And who knows, maybe that the reason why they haven't set like a set policy, they're thinking that that's kind of like a blanket for them, that there's nothing that somebody can come back, right, and then tie them to them breaking this policy that has been set in place. So I'm just surprised that it's taken this long for something like this to surface essentially. But let's talk about the pre-spend. I remember a few years ago I was chatting with my Tiffany's SA and he mentioned, Laura, Hermes has a business strategy in place. They know that people desire these handbags. And if they made it easy for anybody to just go in and purchase a handbag, like it's easy for us to go into maybe Coach or Michael Kors and there's a specific handbag we want and we just go in and buy it. If it was the same way with Hermes, where we can just go in and ask for a Birkin or a Kelly, that's all we would go in and buy. We would not have an interest in any of these other items that they are selling. And so I do see his point in regards to this, so-called, possible business strategy that Hermes may have set in place. So I want to share some of my thoughts about the pre-spend. And some of this will be based, of course, on what is out there on social media, but it is also going to be based on my experience as an Hermes client that's been offered a Birkin handbag. Now, I am aware that there is talk of many people spending because maybe they possibly had an SA that could have given them false promises if they spent so much. If they purchased so many items or spent so much, then they would then be offered a handbag. I personally do not know anyone that has had that experience. I know that there's also mention of other SAs that may have been upfront and said, spend this amount in order to be offered this particular type of handbag, or known as a quota bag, the Birkin or Kelly. And maybe the client then did purchase those items and then they were offered the handbag that they wanted. I also do recognize that maybe in some markets, in certain boutiques within the US, I know that there is mention of maybe possible unfair or disparate treatment. So I want to be respectful of that. That is something that I have heard. I do not know, again, anybody that has personally experienced that. But then we also have a few people that are out here on social media that have happened to have mentioned that they've gone into a boutique and they were working with a specific SA, and maybe they already had picked out 1 or 2 items that they wanted, and then they happened to have asked for a handbag within the conversation. They struck up a really good rapport, relationship with the SA, and then they happened to have turned around and offered them a quota bag, and with a very minimal spend. And so we hear stories of that as well. I'm very pleased with my experience with Hermes. I haven't had any issues with my SA. I haven't had any issues in any of the stores that I have purchased from Hermes here in the US, nor in their boutique in Cancun. For the pre-spend, I feel like there is a lot of hearsay because there's no set rules. There's nothing definitive set in regards to how much somebody has to spend in order to be offered a Birkin or a Kelly. You know, when I happened to mention this article to my husband the other day, he rather chuckled and he said, you know, if you don't like to gamble, then don't go to Vegas. Because with this brand, it is rather known or assumed that you do have to have this type of spending in order to be receiving an offer for a handbag that you are requesting. And so it's like, if you look at it, I mean, I guess they don't call it a quota bag for nothing. To where maybe the SA has to meet a specific quota amount in order for you to finally receive an offer, or whether in their minds there's a specific quota they want their customer to meet, because like I mentioned, there's like nothing definitive, right? In one of the articles that I read from Fortune, it states that Hermes only allows boutiques to purchase a select number of Birkins on a biannual basis. And so customers must then make do with whatever is available or offered by the sales associate. They patiently have to wait for the style that they want to become available. And so this is why I say it could be possible that the pre-spend could be a lot of hearsay. I say that because everything is different for everybody. And I feel that because there is so much talk about this, having to spend and purchase items in order to receive an offer, I feel that sometimes a lot of people may work themselves up to a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, or a 3-to-1 because they continuously go in, whether they go in, you know, every month or every few weeks, and they're purchasing items from categories that they hear other people are saying that they have to buy from, like jewelry or home goods. And people are constantly going in there and just showing this spend in these particular categories because maybe they finally found an SA that they clicked with, and they are showing their loyalty to their brand in this manner by going in and spending. And so I think a lot of people may just happen to work themselves up to this really, really large spend when maybe perhaps they may not have needed to. There's other customers within that boutique that are going in there and asking all of their SAs for the same thing that you are wanting. And so it takes time, if this article does have truth, to where they receive only a set number of, you know, gold on gold Birkin 25s, and you just have to wait a little bit. So that's another just different way of looking at it, to where you maybe possibly not necessarily have to make this spend, and maybe we just need to be patient, and every now and then go in and purchase something. Keep in contact with your SA, just check in on them to see how they're doing, but not feel that you have to make these really, really large purchases to where you end up working yourself into a really large, like 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 4-to-1, or what have you. Let's remove the little crown here from my little Hermes bag. Now, when I received my offer for this lovely beauty, I had only gone into the Hermes boutique once prior, and it was in a different state. Only purchased a couple of items from them, And then I went into the boutique here in Dallas and I met my SA for the very first time. And as my husband and I were there and chatting it up with her, getting to know her, I was looking at a lot of items. And so as I was, finding items that I wanted to purchase, my husband politely asked her if I could be, or we could be put on a wait list in order to, purchase a Birkin, because that's what I had told her that I had wanted. And she said, yes, of course, I can go ahead and take your information down. And do you know specifically what you want to, what you're interested in? I said, yes, these are, specific colors. I can send them to you. And she said, okay, yes, perfect. That's fine. Just go ahead and let me know which, what your preferences are, what specifications. If you're set on a specific handbag, then you are limiting yourself. But if you're open to some options, then you could possibly receive your offer much sooner than later. We only purchased a few items from her, and then like in categories that a lot of people say really aren't categories that kind of qualify. And a few days later, she turned around and contacted us and let us know, I actually have this handbag available if you're interested in it. And we said yes. So we went over there to go and purchase the handbag. We were offered the handbag out in the open. When we went to go and see it, we weren't taken into a private room. Every boutique operates differently. So I'm just speaking of my experience with my particular offer for this particular handbag. And also, I actually did receive an offer for my second quota bag a few months ago last year, which I have mentioned. I've done a video on that. And when I received that offer, I had only actually bought a couple of items from my Hermes SA within the last year. I didn't have this really, really large pre-spend. And, I have bought in categories that a lot of people say, again, don't really qualify. So it just varies. I think it really just depends on the relationship, how personable you are, and the relationship you've built together. It just varies by person. I think it varies by store. And, that's just my experience, and those are my thoughts on me, talking about this whole spinning of a lot of people just working themselves up to a very large pre-spend when they really didn't have to. A lot of articles reference that these plaintiffs felt coerced or forced to purchase some of these ancillary products in order to receive an offer. I personally have never been told that I needed to spend a specific amount. I've never felt that I was coerced or forced in order to buy specific products in order to receive an offer for the bag, as other people have mentioned. We know that it is rather understood that you do have to show a loyalty to the brand. They want to see that. We were all born with free will, and you chose to go in and start a purchase history with Hermes. One plaintiff said she had already received a Birkin offer, and she was spending to receive her second and being kind of turned away in a sense, right? Not receiving an offer for a handbag after having spent again after receiving her first one. And then the other person happened to say that he was spending a lot and never received anything. If you've reached a certain amount, and I don't know their situation, whether money comes easy to them or not. But regardless of that, we have this free will. And if you hadn't received anything after having spent a certain amount, then, I would have stopped. The only thing I could think of with the young lady that happened to mention that she was not receiving a second quota bag offer, my thought was maybe possibly what if she had sold that first bag that she was offered? Because my thought was, what if Hermes caught wind of her possibly selling it, because maybe she posted on maybe like a Facebook group or Etsy, some type of social media platform where Hermes caught wind of it, where she happened to have sold it and they saw it and maybe they flagged her account. because we know that this does occur, because we've all seen those videos of other YouTubers within this luxury space that have mentioned they've received letters from Hermes to where they are no longer going to be selling to them or what have you. You know, we've heard of others receiving letters. Maybe it's possible that that could have happened to where they have flagged her. Maybe she didn't get a letter, or maybe she did, but maybe they flagged her because they saw one instance. It could be that maybe that's why they possibly have not offered her a second one. So that's just one thing to consider in this particular lawsuit. Let's touch on remediation a little bit. Hermes is a French brand that's operating stores in the US. And just like any financial institution, we do have regulations and laws set in place that we have to follow, we have to abide by, because if not, then we can be fined by a government agency. And they will fine the particular company or institution that violated the particular law or regulation. But then the company or institution, whomever it is, they need to then do customer remediation because of the customer impact, and they have to make it right. So they have to go back and determine like a look back period to make sure that they have made whole all of the customers that are impacted for whatever particular situation occurred. Now, in this particular lawsuit, they are going to go back 4 years according to the case, to the lawsuit. So that's where we have like a look back period. So it'll be interesting how it would occur if for some reason they settle, how Hermes chooses to make it right, and how they determine like the payout, or how they will remediate the customers if they settle like privately. But the lawsuit does state that, of course, it has opened it up for other people that feel that they may have been wronged as well, that they can join in on the lawsuit. So it kind of makes me remember some of those like commercials that we see out there. Like recently there was one for like a talcum powder, right? Because it was like this civil lawsuit that was out where people may have been impacted for using this particular powder from this time frame to this time frame, and if so, they needed to reach out to, you know, this particular law firm or agency or whatever in order to then you know, kind of like do a claim. And so it makes you wonder, like if Hermes does lose and these plaintiffs win and it becomes this civil lawsuit like that, how the remediation will then be, whether it's a formal letter, an email, or a card that you receive where you can then submit a claim in order to be considered as part of this lawsuit payout. Now, for the customers or clients of Hermes that are involved in this lawsuit, and any others that may join, they are part of the lawsuit, or it becomes civil, and then people join in, you know, because they received the little card or flyer or email or what have you, and they are technically stating that they've been impacted, and then they receive some type of compensation, some type of payout, because they have claimed that they have been wronged by Hermes. So my thoughts are, what if for those that are stating that they have been wronged and there is some type of payout, whether it is settled privately or whether it is settled within this civil lawsuit, could Hermes flag your profile because you turned around and said that they've wronged you and they've paid you out? So could they possibly flag your profile to where maybe they will not do business, or maybe you could go in there and buy other items, or maybe they won't offer you a handbag? Like, that would be interesting if that could be one possibility of what could happen for those that do, you know, end up receiving some type of compensation, and this case goes further and they do find that Hermes is at fault, and they did have this type of tying, supposed tying practice in place. It would be interesting if that is something that could possibly occur. You never know. The lawsuit also mentions that the Birkin is a symbol of rarefied wealth. For a lot of us that are luxury handbag lovers, and we're moving up, you know, from the handbag designer brands that we have been purchased and we're moving up, and now you want to go into, purchasing Hermes. Within the pyramid of the designer luxury handbag space, right? Like Hermes is at the top. For a luxury handbag lover, a Birkin or a Kelly is considered like a crown jewel in my opinion. As much as I love the brand, I love Hermes. I do love the some of the products that Hermes sells, but I feel that, and these are my thoughts. These are my own personal thoughts, that it doesn't have the allure or the exclusivity that it once was, where in the statement of the lawsuit it says that this type of a handbag exudes rarefied wealth. And the reason that I say that is because if this was back in like the 90s, early 2000s, really prior to a lot of the internet, and I could see the handbag like that back in that time, like in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s. But with the rise in all of this social media, all of this talk about it, it's in reality shows, it's in movies, it's in music. There's just so much there's just so much out there in regards to this brand and these items, these handbags, that it's a lot easier to acquire a handbag of this particular brand now, because of the online consignment stores, these online resellers on IG, you have Facebook groups. It's much easier to acquire this type of a handbag, whether you have the funds outright for it, or whether you have an available credit on a credit card. For me, I feel like it's just gotten to be like another handbag. It's a very expensive handbag, don't get me wrong, but there is just, so much popularity of it, and it's just easier to find, it's easier to purchase, to where it's not as exclusive, for me, in my opinion, as it once was. I mentioned from some of the articles that I was reading, there was one that says, does this lawsuit have legs? And one of my favorites was from the Washington Post that says, Hermes has it in the bag. And they mentioned that the luxury brand doesn't tell buyers, how much they need to spend to gain access to the Birkin. So it makes it harder for these plaintiffs to pinpoint this problem with the policy from Hermes. There's not this blanket policy that the lawsuit can attack. My thoughts are that because of this lawsuit, that there will be a ripple effect. With this ripple effect that I think could possibly happen, is that whether Hermes wins or loses this lawsuit, I think some change will occur. I think, like as I mentioned, if they don't already have certain type of maybe possibly mitigating practices or factors set in place that they're going to have to in order to prevent this type of situation again, to avoid any other possible lawsuits. Could it be that maybe they now go towards a wait list, especially here in the US? We do hear of other countries where there is a wait list and people just wait, and they've had very minimal purchase history, or maybe they go in and they buy a lot, maybe they don't, but there's a wait list. So it'll be interesting if that ends up coming about, or maybe they go back to that if that was in place, 10 years or so ago, however long it was. Maybe they go back to that. And if they do, how's that going to make other people feel that purchased a handbag on the resale market and they spent triple, quadruple the price of the handbag rather than buying it in store or waiting for an offer? Could this even lead to possibly issues where people are kind of prohibited on social media platforms of speaking about this Hermes journey and Hermes pre-spend, post-spend, things of that nature, where because they don't want that being spoken about? What if possibly that then turns around and is then not allowed, possibly, because we do hear of people that are on posting on Instagram where their posts are removed because they happen to be posted something about a particular luxury brand or what have you. And so we hear about that. I mean, it's happened to me. So it'll be interesting if maybe that's a possibility. Who knows, maybe that is something that might not be allowed. It could be prohibited if this lawsuit does end up going to court, and then these plaintiffs and everybody else who has filed this lawsuit against Hermes, if they win. And I've also been like waiting for the day where Hermes and Chanel kind of like band together to try and beat this resale market, to try and set like some type of a practice in place, because I know they don't like these resellers, right? And I understand it from a business standpoint that, if you find it unfair that a lot of these resellers are turning around and selling a Birkin or a Kelly for 2 or 3, 4 times more than what you are selling it for in the boutique. Same thing for Chanel. Certain items, get marked up, and by people buying it, there is showing a demand, a want for it. And like my Chanel essay, she mentioned to me, she says, the reason why a lot of these price increases occur is because these brands, she goes, Chanel does see that people are out there spending more for a particular item. And she says, so that's one of the reasons why they end up increasing it, because they see people are spending and they're buying. And so, if these luxury design houses, like especially Hermes, if you can't beat them, then join them. As part of the ripple effect, that something might possibly change within this reselling market. And one of my thoughts is, what I would love to see is for especially Hermes to do kind of like their own consignment. Allow your clients the opportunity to consign their handbag with you, or like a trade-in policy, to where they kind of do a trade-in policy like some of these other companies, especially jewelers such as Tiffany's. Me as a consumer, I've purchased this handbag through Hermes. I go into the store, I take my receipt, I show them, I have my receipt of the purchase. They show in my customer profile that they offered this handbag to me maybe like 3 years ago, and that they set a certain time frame to where, okay, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client, you've owned this handbag for 4 or 5 years, and now you would like to go ahead and purchase another one, and that we are able to like trade it in. They receive the handbag, they review it, just like Tiffany's would, because Tiffany's has the practice to where if I have a diamond engagement ring and I want to trade in and upgrade, they will accept they will take my ring, they will review it, they will assess it. There's some type of a depreciation, but they evaluate it and they give me an amount for it. And I will then turn around and trade it in for another engagement ring that is double the amount of my original purchase. So a lot of jewelers have that type of a trade-in policy in place. So it would be really nice if Hermes kind of did the same thing, where they assess the depreciation amount, because maybe they need to look at possibly the expense that they need in order to spa it, in order for them to resell it. But it controls this market. And maybe they give you the option of whether you want to take it as is, or maybe you do want them to spa it. But that's your choice. But I think if they really want to do some of this control of the resale market, I think that would be a really, really great option. I mean, what do you think? Would you prefer to purchase a handbag that has been pre-loved, specifically from Hermes, and they've authenticated, they've possibly spotted? I personally would not mind purchasing a pre-loved handbag from Hermes because it's guaranteed and it's authentic. So, and there's a lot of talk on some of these other forums where there's certain things that are coming down the line for consignment resale, and it would be interesting if Hermes is smart and they join in on that bandwagon, because I think that is something that could possibly come about as what I'm terming as like a ripple effect. So that would be really interesting to see. These are my thoughts. These are my opinions on the lawsuit and just things that could come about possibly maybe from this that has occurred with Hermes, that these plaintiffs are bringing forward and filed this suit. Has Hermes lost its crown? It'll be interesting to see what happens. Maybe something like this had to occur possibly to bring about some change. And if they do lose this lawsuit, if Hermes loses this lawsuit and they're found at fault for this tying of ancillary products, you know, what changes will come about from this? Because I do think some changes will need to occur, win or lose. I think as far as just for safe practices for them as a business, as a company, you know, so it'll be interesting to see that. I do hope Hermes has it in the bag. I hope that their legal counsel did kind of prepare them, caution them, advise them to have some practices, mitigating practices in place because of the very popular rise in the particular brand. And it'll be interesting to see what they do to possibly maybe control the resale market. It'd be great if they did offer some type of a trade-in policy on the handbags. I know I'd be right there in line waiting for those who would love to see that. So the ripple effect will be interesting to see what will come about if they do, especially if they do lose this lawsuit. Looking forward to what the outcome will be for Hermes, win or lose. I'm interested in seeing what the remediation would be for these customers that have claimed that they have been impacted by these practices. Whether if, especially if it is known, if it is public, what like the payout, what type of compensation will be. You know, we can only assume how it would be if they do happen to settle, and they would settle privately and it's not disclosed. It is definitely an interesting topic, especially for those of us that are in this luxury community and happen to have been purchasing from this brand. I know everybody is going to be very interested to see what will happen if this lawsuit does have legs, or does Hermes have it in the bag. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to start the conversation below. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me and allowing me to share my thoughts and opinions with you on this particular subject. I hope you all have a wonderful and fabulous, blessed day. And as always, to all of our military, from my military home to yours, thank you so much for your service. I will see you in the next one. I do have some videos coming up, so please stay tuned. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's topic, and please consider subscribing if you're not already. I'll see you in the next one, amigos. Hasta la próxima. Until next time, bye-bye.